Hey, what's up? Thanks for hopping in the car with Christian Addiction Recovery, channel where like-minded individuals that face similar struggles can come to learn and discuss new ways to live the best life possible and overall become the best versions of ourselves. Okay, my story, as short as I can tell it, is that I dealt with addiction for over 20 years. I had many battles. I was sober for months and even years at times, but I didn't have the healing that I needed. And when God finally got me to slow down and wait long enough, I learned there's so much freedom in implementing these very basic principles in our lives. Now, you might have gone to rehab, you might not have. You might have dealt with addiction or depression, you might not have. You may even be living in recovery, okay? But no matter where you are in your journey, there's always room for improvement on the topics that we're going to discuss on this channel. Okay, and if I ever bring up a topic that you are absolutely crushing it in, please share with us, okay? We are here to learn from each other. Well, I can't speak for everybody, but I want to keep learning. I want to keep getting better. Because all the things that I learned at Honey Lake got me healed. But continuing to implement these principles in our lives, we can continue to make things better and better and better. I'm only 2 years in to my life that prioritizes mental health, and I experience life in ways that I never thought was possible. All right, guys, let's get into it. Today I wanted to talk about how intentionality can help us heal from trauma. And before we get into that, let's touch on trauma just a little bit. One thing that I learned about trauma is that it's different for everybody, okay? Really crude example here is, let's just say that you live in an immaculate house your entire life and everything is just pristine and that's just the way your life is, okay? Well, to that person, coming home and finding their house absolutely wrecked and everything destroyed could be completely traumatizing to that person. And the other part of that example is that if you live in a completely chaotic house your whole life, you could come home and find your house destroyed and it may not even affect you. You may not even notice anything wrong. Now, when a person experiences a trauma that is very severe to them, it can fracture their reality. See, each of our realities are molded by our individual subconscious, our life experiences, and overall our perspective on the world. That's how we see reality. And so when that severe trauma enters our subconscious mind, it creates a hypersensitive amygdala. See, our amygdala is where our fight or flight response system is. And the fight or flight system is reactionary based. If this happens, we need to do this. Another crude example is if you're driving and the car in front of you slams on your brake. You can either swerve out of the way or brace yourself for what's about to happen, or when you stop, get out of the car and want to fight the person, okay? All of those are reactions to the fact that the brakes were slammed on in front of you. And as the trauma works its way deeper and deeper into the subconscious, it creates more and more fear in the person. And the more fear that is in the person, the more that fight or flight system is going to step in and affect your decisions. And in time, we can become reactionary in every aspect of our life. That's where I was. I lived in a state of trying to avoid anxiety or stress, and just irrational fears is what I had. And so I reacted to things all the time, okay? It wasn't until my second week at Honey Lake that my counselor had called me in and she said, okay, the word of the day is intentionality. I was like, what's this, Sesame Street or something, And she's like, I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, intentionality. I want you to be intentional today. And I thought to myself, well, I think I'm intentional every day, all the time, And so I kind of pondered it and I was thinking about it and just trying to be intentional. And it was at lunch that day that things started to click for me, because I was getting my tray and I was turning around And the people that I was hanging out with most had an empty chair at their table, and they're like, yeah, come sit over here. And so I started going there with my tray, and I stopped and I said, oh, this is probably not what she was talking about, but this is one way that I can be intentional. So instead I just said, hey, I'm going to sit over here, and I intentionally went and sat by myself. And again, I'm not trying to suggest that this is an area that we need help in our lives, like where to sit at lunch, all right? But this is just an example of when things begin to shift for me based on intentionality. You see, I'd kind of bought into the whole Disney programming that we have, where I just was expecting life to be easy and everything to go, like I say, butterflies and roses and all that all the time. So the fact that things didn't work out the way that I thought they should just created more stress in my life. And then my amygdala kicked in even more. And all I was doing was just trying to avoid stressful situations or anything that challenged me. And one of the ways that I was reactionary was blaming other people. And I believe that blaming is a type of unforgiveness. And really, it's like not forgiving God. Right? Because God allows us to go through challenges and uncomfortable situations to grow our faith. And blaming other people is kind of like saying, hey, God, I really don't like the way that you're teaching me. But you see, God's trying to grow us because He didn't call you where you're at. He called you to who you're going to be. There are things that He needs to teach us if we're going to experience His fullness while we're on this plane. And a number of these lessons are going to take us to places that we would not pick for ourselves. One of those places for me was jail and prison. See, God had tried to get my attention by putting me in those places or allowing my bad choices to get me into those places because He was trying to say, hey, I need you to stop doing those things. But as I said, I was blaming other people, so consequently I learned nothing from my trips to jail in the long run and began to repeat those mistakes over and over and over again in my life. But it was when I started getting intentional about the way I looked at those things, and then when I started realizing that God had allowed each and every test and trial and tribulation to come into my life to grow me into the person that I am today. He moved me away from a victim mindset. I went away from a place of doing everything that I could to avoid to get knocked down to a place of saying, okay, I know I'm going to get knocked down, so I'm going to spend this time to prepare myself so that when I do get knocked down, I'll get back up with class. It helped me get from a place to, seeing how mistreated I was all the time, to realizing, God, thank you so much for all these opportunities to grow and to become this true self that I am today. We must come to the understanding that God uses everything in our life to make us exactly who we're supposed to be. There's really true freedom in that, to not thinking that you have to get everything right, to knowing that God is even going to use your bad decisions to mold you. And He does that for you because you are the heir to His kingdom. I mean, when you start wrapping your mind around the fact that God, the creator of the entire universe, has chosen you to establish His kingdom on this earth and reign over it, there is an incredible confidence that comes into every aspect of your life when you know whose you are and you're not trying to figure out who you are. There's a difference, right? When we know whose we are and we have that true identity in Christ, then everything else falls into place. I know it may seem silly on the surface that me choosing where I was going to sit at lunch could have such an impact to get me to the place of realizing my identity in Christ, but it was just a step in that direction. Another practice that really helped me out, and I highly suggest it if you decide to do a time of intentionality, is turning off your text message notifications. It's really easy to get into a state of every time Your text message beep goes off, you pick it up and you respond to it, even if you're in the middle of things. I mean, I could literally be writing a story or something like that, and then I get my text message and I gotta go answer it, and all of a sudden now my attention has been broken from the story that I'm writing. And by going to the phone like that, we're reacting. Okay, we're using that same old neural pathway over and over, that every time we hear that ding, we're going to answer the text. Okay, so just by turning off your notifications and realizing, hey, when I feel like being intentional, then I'll go answer all my text messages. And it's just a way to start breaking those neural pathways and start creating new ones. And a lot of time, those old neural pathways, especially if you're dealing with addiction or depression, those old neural pathways will lead to a memory that has a negative emotion attached to it. All right. So anything that we can do to stop getting in those old neural pathways. But when we are being intentional, we're breaking that old pattern of thinking, which is why the practice of intentionality can greatly aid in the transformation of a person that's dealing with addiction and depression to a person that has a life that is content and full of peace, love, and joy. Now, another big part of intentionality is setting intention in your life. And who are you going to become? What are you going to accomplish today? Setting these goals. Now, I'll leave a lot of that for you to do with your therapist. And if you need some one-on-one coaching, the link to our website is down below. You'll be able to find all the contact information and everything like that. Hey, if you're still listening right now, guys, comment below. Tell me how you're practicing intentionality in your life so that I can learn a new way. All right, I'd love to hear from you. And smash them likes, or give me a dislike. I need it. I need to know what I can do to get better. I'm trying to improve, guys. I'm on an incredible journey of transformation, guys, and I just want to be able to impart all the wonderful things that I have learned. I hope that you'll take a journey with me. If you see that word there, subscribe, and it's red, go ahead and click it, all right? I'm a new channel. I'm not gonna be showing back up in your feed unless you're subscribed, all right? And we're gonna be covering all the topics that are just basic, simple life rules, but they can absolutely change your life when practiced. All right, guys, I hope I helped you understand a little bit about intentionality and how it can help you heal in your life. I hope to hear from you so that I can learn from you as well, and we can all take this journey together. All right? Love y'all. Peace!